What's up everyone, it's Brawl here, and in this video I'll be giving you guys my sort of comprehensive history on what I believe happened during Need for Speed Payback's development. So we've all seen it now. It's the Need for Speed hashtag concept that was posted on Reddit the other day by a user by the name of the Quicksilver, I believe. This particular piece of concept art shows us a few things that we didn't really expect would have been a part of Need for Speed Payback. One thing definitely being a more car culture based atmosphere as opposed to the more festival themed and action heist story of Need for Speed Payback that we see in the final game. One thing we can take away from the picture is the crowds that appear in there, because that's something that was obviously part of the idea at some point and was carried over to the final game. Another thing seems to be that the location was always set to be a Vegas sort of atmosphere, since you can see the Space Needle wannabe thing in the background over there. Another thing is that there's a lot more hypercars in this image than we would get in the final game, obviously, because licensing things and Ferrari in the background there that they don't like their cars being customized. But aside from that, we've got a very nicely customized RX-7 front and center right above the Need for Speed logo with fixed headlights, which is something we do not have in the final game. And honestly, I don't know why it's not in the final game. But back to the atmosphere, we've still got a desert area. Whether this would have been off-roading or not, whether it was planned from the beginning, I don't know that part. But it looks like there's a track in the background right behind this car meet area before you hit the city, which means that there was probably going to be a track racing element planned from the beginning, meaning this game could have been more like a spiritual successor to Pro Street, which would explain the presence of street leagues in the game, as well as the division of car classes, much like Pro Street. And as opposed to having cars divided up into different disciplines in racing, there were originally going to be conversion kits that essentially would have let you convert your car to any class you wanted, whether that was race or grip, as it was originally referred to, which brings it again closer to Pro Street, drift, drag, or sleeper, which was the original name for the runner class. It's still unknown whether off-roading was planned from the beginning of development, but in that concept art it does show a desert there, so I feel like it was planned from the beginning. Now at this point, dealerships were divided up by car class, such as sports, exotic, muscle, rally, you get the deal. Most likely would have been similar to something that was seen in, say, Test Drive Unlimited, though without the specific branded dealerships. Also planned was just a lot more tuning customization in terms of your car's performance and handling, which was present in 2015 but was cut in Payback with the live tuning system. It was most likely too difficult to have this working with all the different car classes in the game, or else it might have ended up like another 2015 situation where one part was very broken and another part was slightly less broken. Anyway, aside from all of that, what about the name? Why the hell would they name it Need for Speed Hashtag? Well, as I soon realized from MaxLazy10 on Reddit, it was most likely because they were going to go for another social aspect like 2015, except much more expanded and try to make it more social than maybe even The Crew, which could possibly mean that All Drive was a planned feature from the start and was scrapped after this next thing. The interesting thing about this concept art is that it's from 2016, which means that Craig Sullivan was still creative director of Need for Speed at Ghost. According to his LinkedIn page, he left Ghost in December 2015 to get a job at Amazon Game Studios. We don't know when in 2016 this concept art was from, but it's safe to assume that it was pretty early on, considering that there aren't any actual 3D models in the scene and everything seems to be drawn art. It's also safe to say that William Ho, the new creative director for Need for Speed, stepped in around sometime early 2017, which could have led to this next stage of the game called Need for Speed Hardline. This is a whole directory found in Payback's files. It doesn't contain anything really significant about Payback's development, as most of the current game's assets are found in a hashtag folder, but it does lead to a stronger assumption that there were definitely two phases of Payback's development. The first being hashtag and the second being hardline, which hardline seems like it would be a much more fitting name for the direction that Payback ended up going. This phase of the development most likely happened after William Ho took over as creative director and decided to throw in his own ideas about halfway through development for whatever reason and scrap almost everything that was established before, including the car culture focus, track racing, deeper customization, and a larger social aspect. I strongly believe that this is the whole reason that Payback ends up feeling so underdeveloped in the end. By the time the game needed to be presented at EA Play, there's most likely less than half of the game complete, judging by how there were still large differences in how the gameplay worked, like cars having a level cap of $4.99, which clarified by a beta tester who, if I recall correctly, said that all cars were going to be able to go to $4.99, which would have made a huge difference in gameplay, and honestly I have no idea why they decided to cap some cars when they had them all at a max level at some point. Anyway, the lack of direction that Payback had was most likely due to all these last-minute decisions taking place after Craig Sullivan left. It seems like the original plan for the game was really to make a Need for Speed 2015 2, expanding on the car culture aspect, expanding on the customization, expanding on the world, and expanding the gameplay mechanics. It seems like all along, this game really was supposed to be the change in direction for Ghost. This was supposed to be their good game, their masterpiece, if you will. It seemed like they really wanted to take all the good things they did with 2015 and amplify them up a notch and have that as their focus. As evident by how Payback ended up, they had no focus after Craig Sullivan's departure. It's an unfortunate and very similar story to Most Wanted 2012's development. They had an idea, most likely had a lot of development on that idea. Bad shit happens, and then they end up scrapping the whole idea and moving on to something else. And then it turns out that idea couldn't be fully realized, so they're all scrambling for deadlines, and what you get is basically a product that's half-assed to say the least. What they really need to do for the next game is take a focus, look at only that focus, and then fully realize it. That's the formula to a good Need for Speed. 2015 had this formula. Was it a good game? No. Was its atmosphere better? Yes. Was its story better? Marginally. Mostly because it's not convoluted as all hell. The only thing that really ruined that game were the cops and the handling. Mostly the handling. Now, if they want to take the 2015 underground sort of path with Need for Speed in the future, then what they should do is only look at that aspect and do that. Only work in that direction. And if they want to go the new William Ho route, then they need to take his ideas and what Payback did right and expand on that. Actually have a focus to it. Spend more time on the story if you want to make it more story focused. Don't leave plot holes all over the place. Undercover did that, and that game, you all know how that game is. But yeah, that's my take on what they should do with the series next and how they can solve their current issues with the franchise. Now, whether they'll actually do these things, we'll just have to see. But anyway guys, if you found this information as interesting as I found it, leave a comment or maybe subscribe if you want to see more of this style of content, where I go in depth on different sort of things, Need for Speed, Smash, whatever it is, whatever I fancy at the time. But that'll have to do it for this video. This is Brawl out.